Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. For those of you who just joined, welcome to our show. During the talk and the interactive fireside chat tonight, we'll focus on how to transition into UX during all these tech layoffs that have been taking place. We have invited several awesome guest speakers who have successfully done that and have successfully transitioned into the field or have been in the field for quite some time and have been hired themselves and now have a lot of experience basically in the field to share lots of insights about their journey and answer lots of questions we have prepared, and we'll take lots of questions from you guys as well. We'll introduce our wonderful guests in just a few minutes. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Michael. I'm the founder of a company called BeginX. It is a part-time UX career accelerator based on real mission-driven client projects that helps people who know UX basics transition into the field in one of the most efficient and affordable ways and without quitting their jobs. And I don't mean this to brag or anything like that, but just to give you a little bit more of a background for credibility purposes, we have run many cohorts and helped over 140 people or so, probably more by now, get hired into UX roles. We'll tell you a bit more about our program and also make a special announcement closer to the end of the event. And of course, that part is completely optional. So you're welcome to hang around if you'd like to hear more. All right. So here's some of the companies that all these grads that I was talking about have been hired by. This is just a small fraction of that. So basically, we've seen lots of people go through this whole entire UX career transition. Awesome. So now let's get to the most fun part and actually introduce our wonderful guest speakers. And then we'll jump into the actual panel. So great to have you guys here. Thanks again for joining us. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself? Anyone can go first. Feel free to just jump in.
I can go first. My name's Carrie Beasley. I'm a senior UX researcher at DirecTV currently. Been there for about a year, coming up on, I think next month is a year. But this is the first foray out of financial services industry for me. I've been mostly at financial services companies before that. Since 2017, when actually 2018, sorry, when I was at BeginX, I took the BeginX course. And yeah, before it was over, I got hired by JP Morgan Chase and then went on to be at American Express and actually Silicon Valley Bank via an agency, but lots and lots of usability testing, lots and lots of interviews, lots and lots of synthesis, which I really enjoy, but I think soon I'll be looking for a little bit of a change, a little bit of a management role or something like that. Not quite sure, but that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, I'll bite the bullet. I'll go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Hamni. I'm an experience director based out of New York. My background is in graphic design, and I think that there's some people that I saw in the chat that also have design as a background. I've been kind of all everywhere. More recently at agencies, I've been in-house. I've been at JP Morgan Chase through multiple different companies. It seems to be like the #1 employer here in New York. I've been at MAC Cosmetics, Macy's, UBS, Citibank, JetBlue, Starbucks. I mean, just a range of different things and companies from all sorts of parts of the world. But yeah, is there anything else I was supposed to say apart from the background?
I think that's good. I think I will definitely learn a lot more about you as we go through the discussion.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Jun Yao. You can call me Yao. So nice to meet everyone here. I'm based in Seattle, and I'm currently working for a company called Axon. It's a company doing like public safety products. And yeah, I transitioned into UX during pandemic, and I have a background in industrial design. So I also see a lot of people coming from graphic design or other design backgrounds. So very nice to meet everyone here.
Awesome. Thank you, Yao.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Robbie Frank. Also a product designer. I went through the program years ago, but also a career transitioner. So my background is in elementary special ed. That's kind of where I found out about UX. And yeah, I've been working in the industry for about 5 or 6 years now. Started off at a company called Acadian Labs, which deals primarily with like Cisco third-party products. And then now we're at a company headquartered out of New York called Olo. And if you've ever ordered food online, you've probably integrated or used something that we've built, but we don't publicize it too much.
Awesome. Thank you, Robbie. All right, great. So let's jump right into the discussion. So I'll facilitate the discussion and might have to interrupt occasionally just to ensure we're on time and have a chance to answer most of the question. And we have a lot prepared, and I'm sure the audience have a ton more. And basically ensure that we cover all that. Also, every guest speaker doesn't have to answer like every single question. Just pick the ones you feel you might have the most insight on. For the audience, if you guys have a question, please use the Q&A tab once again. This way you can also upload others' questions, and please do so. And we make sure that we address the most popular ones that many people are interested in, right? So, and ideally, please also know like which speaker the question is for as well. Just a reminder, the career transition roadmap summary handout will be available to download. So stick around if you'd like to get that. Okay. So we'll start off by basically we'll cover all these different phases that I just showed in the slides, right? Focusing on quite a bit on practicing and growing and on the job search phases as well. So to just take a step back for a second, right, from recessions or layoffs or transitioning, right? First of all, how do you actually know if you should become a UX designer, and what are some tips you would give our audience on that?
You just want, how do you want this to work, Michael? Would you just like us to jump right in?
Yeah, sure.
I'll say I've taken a bunch of those personality tests, and every time my background was in something other. I mean, I've done marketing, sales, medical sales, teaching, kindergarten. I have a bunch of different careers that I've done, and every personality test I've ever taken all along the way says things like you should be in something analytical, something where you get to talk to people. It's just like describing a UX researcher role. So I feel like I'm in the right place, but it took me a long time to learn that there was such a thing as UX research and that I could actually get into it based on what I had done so far. I just think you have to really know yourself and know your strengths, and then you have to research the role itself. And there are lots of different roles within UX that you can sort of choose from. Some are harder to get into, some are easier to get. I don't know, maybe they're not anymore, but it's just know yourself, your skills, and then understand what you need to be in one of those UX umbrella type of roles.
Thank you, Carrie. So anyone else wants to chime in on how do you actually know if you should become a UX designer or researcher or just UX professional in general?
Yeah, I think a lot of you that are here right now are showing like the first stage of being curious. I think everyone can agree that like it's a great soft skill to be curious. And as a UX designer, UX researcher, anyone in the field, we are like curious people at heart, and we're always trying to figure things out, try to solve things. And you all are taking a great first step being here, like trying to figure out, is this the right place for me? Let me go learn about some other people's experiences and maybe how I can relate to that. So, I think just that curiosity aspect, never lose it because it'll take you really far in this field.
Thank you, Robbie. All right. Yao, if you want to add anything, let us know.
I'm just thinking what makes me decided to to UX design, like because my background was also a designer before, and I have been enjoying being a designer role because I love the iteration process. I love to talk to people. I love to collaborate with people, and definitely I love those kind of creative side of designer role. But I think what makes me want to really like change to UX design role specifically is because I love the opportunity inside UX design. Like, I don't know how many of you were coming from traditional design background. I do think the UX design industry has much more resources at this point. And I think that drives me to transition into UX design. And then I think for me, keep learning is one key part of my career journey. So, and I think UX design has been a very keep growing industry that make you feel like you have to learn a lot of new things every day. And I have been enjoying that.
Awesome. Yeah, great insights. Thank you, guys. So next question, and let's start off with this, right? This is probably on everyone's mind, right? Everyone, especially in the field already or transitioning into the field. And this is not an easy question, right? What do you guys think has actually changed for those looking to transition into UX in this current environment with all the tech layoffs that's, we've been hearing about?
I can take this one. So it's really interesting because a few years ago, at least when I was taking Beginx, when I was studying UX at General Assembly, I remember the companies and the interviews even that I was going to, they were like, oh yeah, UX, like that means you can code. And I was kind of stunned by that because they were just the hiring manager was so removed from understanding what it is. That being said, I think now, many years later, the companies actually realize the value of UX. So that's the benefit. However, because UX is such a lucrative field, there is an abundance of junior, mid, and senior talent out there, which of course, with the layoffs and everything, makes it considerably harder to get into. But again, the benefit is that a lot of companies are valuing speaking to their users, speaking to their customers, and building designs, not just because some manager somewhere says they want a feature being built, but actually because they're getting feedback from the users. So there's pros and cons to the layoffs, and there's pros and cons to where the industry is and where it's going to be going.
Thank you, Victoria. Gary, did you want to add anything? I see I'm muted.
I read a lot of Medium articles. I haven't been looking for a job since the tech layoffs happened, but I've obviously noticed them. And I guess my take on it would be that if I were going to start looking, even having been in this field for a while, I would have to just really button things up and step up my game, because there are so many other people out there competing, even at the senior level. So good advice from Victoria.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So Robbie, Yao, have you guys noticed anything?
Yeah, I mean, just building off of what Carrie was saying, I think, thinking now the market is kind of like, the playoffs. Like, I know the hockey playoffs are happening right now, but just think it's like, everyone's like got to be in the all-star game. And you have to bring like, your best person forward, which is you, and kind of showcase all of your top skills, all of your kind of top assets and ways that you can kind of really like market yourself and show the company or whoever you're talking to, whether it be for an internship, junior, associate, whatever that role is, what value you can bring to that company. And not like in 90 days, but like, what can you do in the first month? What can you do immediately to drive impact? Because that's what everyone's after, is how quickly can I get impact? Show me results.
I definitely agree with what Robbie said here. I felt like what I learned when I was transitioning in the pandemic time was not just showing outputs, but actually showing outcomes and impacts. So like telling people what skills that you have might not be enough, but how you bring value through these skills are more important to your future company. So presenting your value at the beginning is more important to telling people what kind of tools you know. That's my takeaways.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also what I just kind of wanted to add is that some people confuse like where layoffs are taking place, and based on my own experience and research, right? So it's specific. There's a reason we put the word tech in the title, right? Is because a lot of these layoffs, right, have been at big tech companies, right? So just to kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, but it's important to pay attention to all the other areas, right? All the other different types of industries and corporations and services companies and agencies and startups, and basically not just be fixated just on, I want to get a job at Meta, I want to get a job at Google, right? Well, right now it's probably not the best time to focus on those companies, right? And yeah, basically just make sure you have open kind of your mind to all these different other companies, because most companies, that's what's really cool right now, and it's kind of have been evolving for the last few years, right? Is that most different companies, right, they have technology department, they have IT departments, right? And a lot of them are still doing relatively well, right? And there's still lots of opportunities, right? So just think of the big picture and kind of about your whole transition strategy. So in terms of, so let's kind of just start to like earlier, closer to the beginning of this whole transition, right? And let's briefly talk about hard skills, right? What do you think, what hard skills do you think one really needs to get a UX design job or UX research job?
I think they're different for UX design and UX research. So I'll just speak to the research end of it. I think you have to be analytical. You've got to be able to make sense of a tremendous amount of messy information and understand the synthesis part is kind of the hardest part for a lot of researchers. And so you've got to be able to organize information and become the kind of person who can organize your own process so that you keep information organized and are able to understand the hierarchy of that information. What are the overarching themes? What little things don't matter based on the objectives that you went into the study with? That kind of thing. But also it helps to be a really good writer, because you need to communicate the value of the research and the findings and what you learned from the research to the greater organization. And to do that, it's you need to create reports and you need to do presentations. So it's in your best interest to become a good presenter. So practice that whenever possible, even if it's painful, it'll become easier, trust me. And be a good writer and be able to condense that writing down and figure out a way to speak to the main themes, the overarching themes, which requires someone to take this bit over here, goes along with this bit. It's exhibiting, these two things here are saying the same, they're speaking to the same problem. So we're going to put those in a category over here and then label it. So it's sort of like making your own little affinity map, much more so now that we're remote. I work remotely by myself. And while I do work as part of a team, I'm synthesizing by myself now. So I'm doing affinity mapping alone, which I don't really like, but that's the way it is right now. So that's kind of what I don't think there are many design skills that are required of a UX researcher. Maybe, layout and hierarchy so that your written reports can be understood and they're not a big mess. That is something I've seen a lot of UX researchers do. So you got to have a little bit of design chops.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. So let's get someone else from the design side and perspective on like what's hard skills do you think are most important?
I think that Carrie is right on point. So, I mean, based on the titles that I'm seeing, the job titles that I'm seeing, it's really all over the map. So the job title might be one thing, but actually what you're going to be hired and what you're going to be doing might vary. So even though it says like product designer, you might be more focused, although unlikely, more focused on research. So hot tip, always look at the job description. But that being said, the hard skills that I would encourage you all to look into and to really nail are exactly what Carrie said, the user research. How do you conduct interviews, usability testing? How do you then, with all of the information that you have, boil it down and make presentation and public speaking skills? I mean, from this point on, especially since we're all virtual communication, I mean, it's always been important, but it's more important now than ever before. Interaction design, so prototyping, wireframing, all of those fun things, information design as well. Like, how do you actually synthesize what it is that you found and how do you organize everything? Design, as in visual design. I will also maybe bucket accessibility into that as well. I think I keep seeing a lot of different companies value accessibility over and over again. Again, I work in an agency and we have a lot of clients coming in and they actually ask us upfront, what is your process to ensuring that the end result is accessible for everyone? So that's something good to keep in mind. And finally, front end and back end. Whenever you're designing, you can't just be designing in a vacuum. You really need to be conscious of, maybe the sprints the development team has, or if you're including different features that are really heavy on the back end development, to be really, really mindful of that. Again, you don't have to be an expert in this, but it would really help if you know it just enough to have a short conversation about it.
Awesome. Very comprehensive answer. Thank you. Awesome. So you guys want to add anything? Robbie, Yao, anything that we haven't covered yet that you think is really crucial to have as parts of your hard skills?
I mean, the one thing I was going to just add on, I mean, definitely echo everything that's been said already, but like, kind of having your go-to tech stack, like what's in your tool belt. I know when I first started into UX, I mean, I have background in graphic design, so super familiar with like the Adobe suite, but I was like, oh, I have to learn XD, have to learn Sketch, have to learn all these like high fidelity tools. Like, you really don't. I would choose one and focus on that. So pick a tool that does high fidelity and learn it. You don't have to master it, but you have to know enough to get by and achieve the results that you're after. And then, as Victoria was saying, like prototyping, or wireframing, like there's other tools like Miro, Whimsical. Like, I love Whimsical or FigJam. You can wireframe in there. So like, how can you quickly take concepts that Carrie's wonderfully synthesized and handed off to a designer, and now I can conceptualize that visually. So like using a prototyping tool and being able to rapidly get those prototypes out so you can test them and move them on to higher fidelity. And then, in the research piece, like what we use at my company a lot, it's called Dovetail. So it's like a research synthesizing tool. So it kind of just tools that cover all the bases of like what I consider myself as like a UX generalist. So kind of owning the end-to-end process. So finding like a tool for each part of that process and really being comfortable within it, because all the other tools that exist in those spaces are very similar. You have all trucks are very much the same. All sports cars are very much the same. Same with like design tools. They're all very similar, different names, different shaped buttons, but they all have the end result.
Awesome. Yeah, great point. Thank you, Robbie.
And I think from my perspective, I assume most of our audience are junior to mid-level designer. And if that's the case, I always felt like hard skills are always, the goal of hard skills are bringing good craft design. And what I mean by good craft is like your design is in high quality, and there are three aspects of it. Like, you have good eyes, you have good hands, and you know how things are made. And so when we're talking about good eyes, means you have basic understanding of aesthetic and visual design. And what I mean by good hands is like, how to use Figma or any kind of tools to help to the optimal process to bring your design to life. And what I mean by knowing how things are made is actually have some basic understanding of user research and knowing why you make this kind of design. Why not doing the other way, and also doing the iteration process. So that's how I think about hard skills.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Al. And I see we have a couple of people already putting questions. So Brittany and Nicole, thank you for adding those questions to Q&A. We'll get to them in a second, kind of once we get to those phases of the transition, as we kind of try to be somewhat systematic, right, about, you know, kind of addressing this whole transition in terms of different steps. And yeah, just to remind to everyone else, please put your questions in Q&A, right, and upvote others' questions this way, and then we'll try to answer as many as possible. But yeah, again, no question is silly. Yeah, just try to focus them on transition and how to transition into UX, and like how to transition specifically during layoffs that have been taking place at tech companies, right, and all these different roles. Yeah, so just add more of those to Q&A. Don't be shy. And what I want to ask you guys as well is, how critical do you think are UI or graphic design, visual design skills for those who maybe really want to work in just like generalist type of UX role, and maybe even information architecture? What is your take on that? I know that's a question a lot of people usually have.
Okay, I'm really curious what Carrie will say, but in my experience, it's super crucial. I've never worked as a researcher, again, because my background is in graphic design, but having an eye for good, well-designed apps and websites, and being able to understand the different nuances, responsive design, accessibility, all of that, it's not only valuable, but based on my experience, back in the day when I was looking for a junior role or senior role or mid role, all of those roles, I remember looking into the job description, and a lot of them were about creating the assets too. So it's the end-to-end product UX designer. That's essentially what a lot of the companies are looking for. Now, is that the best? Are you really getting the best out of everything? And as we've mentioned, you know, UX is such a huge term for so many skills. Probably not. And I think the companies will soon realize. I think also the bigger the company, the more likely those are separate. But I think, again, going back to the question, I think it's very, very crucial. And I mean, everything, all of the courses, everything is online. Like everything is on YouTube. Coursera is there. LinkedIn Learning is there. There's just really no excuse for you guys to tune in on your lunch break, after work, on the weekends, wake up a little bit early and watch a course, and really take a really good moment of like learning. It's super, super essential. And the more you learn, again, it's kind of what Robbie said earlier, learning and being curious is just like the foundation of UX.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great point. And also make sure when you watch those courses, most importantly, start applying what you watched, because that's a problem lots of people have, is that, you know, too much consumption and too little production, right? So if you have to choose, right, practice is way more important, because you can watch the whole library and then in the end still not have any skills that they actually need, right? So make sure you put that into practice and apply it right away. Huge mistake a lot of people make.
And put it into practice.
And
soon
one more
after
comment
you
that
watch the
apply
course.
to practice. I mean, there's challenges, really cool challenges out there too. Like now when I was going through BeginX, a couple peers in the program, we all did the 100 days of UX or UI challenge. So every day there's like a new UI prompt. You know, it's as simple as you know, write the content for a button to a sign-in screen. You know, so all these different types of UI prompts. So that's like a great way to like level up in your UI skills. Also, like when I first started learning Sketch, I just started screenshotting different apps, like, you know, Facebook, Spotify, like whatever the apps are, and just drop it in and try to recreate it. It doesn't have to be super high fidelity, but just get used to, like, at the basics, it's just rectangles and circles, you know. And then all of a sudden you start rounding corners and you got pillboxes. And so, you know, it's a easy way to start building this out, those skills out.
Okay, Robbie, I wanted to come right after you and say exactly what you've just said. We had an intern last summer, and this guy was fresh out of college. He was really keen on getting into the UX field. He was really struggling with the responsive website that I kind of asked him to just kind of like make something, whatever you want. And he was like really, really struggling with it. And so what I actually asked him to do is, okay, take a screenshot on your desktop of your favorite e-commerce, your favorite website, I don't care what it is, and then take a screenshot on your phone of the same thing and look how different they are. Like, how are how are they representing this component in mobile? How are they representing that component in desktop? Figma, as far as I know, it's free to download and free to use. I'll also say that Figma is probably the tool that I see more and more companies using just across the board. I know that there are some dinosaur companies, probably like JP Morgan out there, that's still using Sketch, but Figma really is the standard. So do what Robbie just said. Fantastic learning opportunity. And you really don't even have to watch too many YouTube videos, or you can like pause it and then like try to figure it out. That is how you learn.
But the thing that doing it does for you is you get faster. The more you do it, the faster you get. So that when somebody gives you a task and says, "Hey, can you do this?" and you're not like a deer in headlights. You're not thinking, yeah, I think I've done that once before. If you get really good at doing it, you can whip it off in 5 minutes and impress them. Oh, I'm not such a newbie, I'm not such a rookie here. I can get this done quickly and it doesn't stress you out. It's just better. So do the prep work beforehand to get fast at certain tasks, and then you won't regret it.
One more add on to that is don't throw away your pencil and paper. We're all talking like tech stack, but like my favorite thing when I learned how to was drive like mobiles was just using index cards. The 3x5 index cards. It's a perfect size. Well, was a good size for a screen back then. Now they're all like way bigger, but you get the basic shape and you're able to draw and you can create basic flows. Like a sign-in flow, a checkout flow, change my setting flow. So don't throw away that pencil and paper because it's easy. Just take a picture of it, throw it on like a prototyping app, and then you're able to start creating like a clickable walkthrough prototype out of it.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, great discussion. Love it. All right, how about, so we talked about the tools briefly, and you guys, so just to basically summarize, do a quick recap. I know sometimes people have questions. The top 3 right now are basically Figma, XD, and Sketch still is there, but definitely lost market share to probably Figma most likely. And yeah, as long as you just learn one of those, right? Again, the skills are quite transferable. Don't get too fixated about the tools, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, which tool? I mean, it's more important to actually know what to do with the tool versus like this specific tool, because tools will evolve, right? The landscape was quite different like 5 years ago, or somewhat different, right? And it can change again in another 5 years, right? So just be adaptable and just ready to learn. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys one more question for now, and then take a couple of questions from our Q&A. And also, yeah, please keep those questions coming. Love that we already have quite a few folks who asked. So Julie, Lily, Xinyi, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Sorry if I'm not. Crystal, Naira. Yeah, so thank you for putting those questions. Yeah, definitely keep those coming. We'll address as many of them as possible, especially the most popular ones. And I think, Julie, you have questions specifically about like how people broke in and internships and projects, work experience. Yeah, we'll get to that stage, to that phase in just a second. So I'll probably take a question a bit later once we get there. How about coding skills, right? In your guys' experience, how important are coding skills to make this transition?
Not for research.
I do not know coding at all.
Okay, so I'm the opposite of everyone else on this panel, which is I taught myself HTML and CSS. And in fact, that is how I even discovered the world of digital design. And I fell in love with it head over heels back in the day when I was in high school and I had the coolest MySpace. Excuse me, I know I'm dating myself, but like, again, it's like all about the learning. I kind of just want to touch about some of the questions that I'm seeing. Like, how do you get a job if you have a part-time, or like if you have a full-time job? How do you build up your case studies? It's exactly what we're saying right now. It's expanding on the skill sets that you are seeing the job descriptions have over and over again that you might not be so great at. If we're talking to you about coding, maybe it's not that important, but accessibility is, user research, conducting interviews is, communication skills. I will also say that I know, Mike, we're going to go there, but I will also say that networking, because of the layoffs, because of the industry is absolutely piping hot, is more important than ever before. And frankly, although I love that you guys are all putting your LinkedIn profiles and you will all be following and connecting with one another, connect with the hiring managers, look into the companies in the industries and connect with either the hiring managers or somebody in the HR, right? The HR people are literally the people that are looking for good talent. And okay, one last thing, work on those case studies, like even collaborate, right? It was kind of easy for me to transition from graphic design into UX, but BeginX, for example, gave me the opportunity to collaborate and become a project manager with a team, something that I otherwise would not have had. Having said that, even if you don't take the route of BeginX or any other educational platform, I highly encourage you all to collaborate. So the people that have just linked together on LinkedIn, get together and actually work on a project. That's going to be a huge learning opportunity. That's going to be super beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great point, Victoria. I think it's definitely what not enough people do is like, because we'll get to softer skills and experience and case studies in a second. I know this is like kind of the meat of it, right? That's the question that everyone usually has, like everyone is basically most interested in, right? Hard skills are a little bit more straightforward and tools, right? So that's like hard skills, like the easiest phase to learn on your own, right? But just watching stuff and trying to practice, et cetera. But then softer skills, experience, projects, et cetera. And that's kind of the reason what we do at BeginX, right? Is basically because, to address those difficult phases of this transition that are harder possible, but harder to do on your own. Right. And as you guys notice, like all these folks went through our program, but obviously that doesn't mean that, the discussion will be revolving around the program at all. Right. We'll tell you about it at the end later. But yeah, obviously we'll just talk about everyone's transition and all these different key phases. All right. So, and by the way, Yao, did I miss you? Did you want to add anything in terms of I think you responded about coding, but anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I think coding might not be like a necessary skill for designer, at least from my point of view. But it's good to know. And but it's not like the must-have items you have to do it now. So prioritize your time and be intentional on your time. Like if you are really looking for being a UX designer, I think the hard skills that I just mentioned, like good eyes, good hands, and knowing how things are made are more important than knowing how things are coded. I mean, you can learn the general idea, like how things get structured, but not necessarily need to be a developer. So that's my 2 cents on there.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I was gonna say, I agree with that. I think, for the as far as the coding, like, I don't know how to code. I've tried to teach myself and just gave up because I didn't want to market myself that way. It kind of came down to that, like, as Yao was saying, like, where do you want to spend your time? Your time is resources. So I spent it in other areas and learning other things that I knew I was going to be able to pick up easier, better. But what I did learn was basic HTML and CSS. So I can go in, I can manipulate websites, I can drop in new content, change the size of divs. Like I can do some basic stuff to get my point across if I need to do that with an engineer in the room. So like kind of learn enough to where you can achieve goals that also impress and also can get you in a job, because I think it's kind of standard. You would see, and we'll probably get to it eventually, but kind of on your resume, you see like skills, programs, HTML, CSS, Java. Some people that so just being comfortable with it, being able to talk to it, it gives a lens into like a hiring manager that knows this person knows how to communicate in this language where engineers speak. So I think just know enough. Where that line ends, that's up to you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That
Wait,
might
can I
be
just
the
say
little thing that pushes you over the edge and gets you hired too.
Can I just say one more thing? I totally agree with everything you three have said. I don't code at all in my day to day. I mean, I taught myself again back in high school, and I've never like used it beyond that. However, do you know how often I look into the source code of a website? Probably once a week, if not more. So knowing what you're looking for, like in that instant, right? Like again, just the basic understanding of HTML and CSS. It's a great skill to have. We're not going to be asking you to code anything in JavaScript.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Love the discussion. I think just to recap, it's basically, it's essentially if you're just starting out, right, and figuring out like what I need to learn, obviously you would not start with coding first, right? So you would probably start with understanding UX process and phases, right? But that said, coding is obviously it's crucial as well, because not as something that you will do on a regular basis, but just to communicate better and get more respect from developers, right? Especially if it's a smaller company, if it's like a hardcore tech company, right? So that's that gets really important. So you just don't design like pie in the sky type of stuff, right? So it's, again, it's not for your day to day, but it's just for kind of your broader development. All right, so let's take a quick question from so Julie, we'll come back to your question because I want to get to that case study and experience phase first. So Brittany, I think you asked, that was like the first question that I saw here, that is kind of more high level, right? How junior designers can stay motivated to break into the field. Any tips?
Read as much as you can. I find it much more motivating. It keeps me motivated to read articles by people on Medium. I mean, I like Medium, and I like there's some things on Substack. It keeps a lot of issues related to the field top of mind. So my curiosity doesn't like stray, and I'm over here learning about some other crazy thing, you know? I mean, I make a living doing this, so I need to know about it. So that's what keeps me into the field and curious.
Thank you, Karen.
Can I ask a question to Brittany? Like, what makes you not motivated to break into the field? Is it because the current market is too competitive, or you getting too many rejections? Like, I want to know the reason behind it. I mean, I do like, because I'm personally passionate about design, I will keep like being motivated to being a designer, like what Carrie said. I will read articles, I will like watch YouTube video, but I'm just curious, like what make you demotivated by like not breaking into the field?
Yeah, great advice starts with a question, right? So that's good. Yeah, so Brittany, feel free to add more detail to your question. We don't have to do it live, but you can just put more detail right in Q&A or maybe in the chat, right? And then maybe Yao can also kind of, you know, see additional that additional information that you add, and maybe provide some more tips. But I would also say, I think what often is challenging during this transition is that if you're doing it completely on your own, right? So if you do just, you know, do like a 100% self-study, you know, completely independent online course, right? And then it can get quite demotivating if, you know, if you just do it all the way on your own, you know, all the time. So yeah, just find more people to interact with, find more folks, more like attend events like this, connect with people, right? And just have more people who you have something in common with who are transitioning as well. Ideally, even like Victoria said, collaborate with them maybe on the project, or maybe just make a study group or something, right? And also don't read too much news because read the news, be up to date, but don't get fixated on it, because remember that they make money by, you know, basically sharing a lot of negative information that gets a lot of views and a lot of clicks. So it's a little bit biased. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
I do want to add something. So I'm looking at Myra's question just below that as well, which is, I'm having difficulties landing on my first opportunity in the US. I'm an experienced director. How do I stand out when you have 400 applicants for a role? So I think the question is really closely tied to Brittany's, Johnson. And the way I would answer this is, what is the goal? Like, think about your job search actually as a UX project. What is the goal? What is the objective? It's to get a job. What are the critical things you need? So you need the resume. We all know that. I know there's some questions about the portfolio, case studies, right? Those are like you must have. But when you're actually applying to jobs, what are the steps? Like, what is going to give you, as Robbie mentioned, like, where can you spend the most time that will get you the most impact, the most effort? Is it applying to that job posting that has 400 applicants? I'll tell you right now, I don't think that's going to get you the job. Again, I think it's all about networking. I think it's collaborating with other people. It's meeting other people in this industry and maybe even outside of this industry, right? Because I think Michael says this every time I do one of these panels, which is I encourage everybody to attend a meeting even outside of the UX. Everyone is virtual now. Go to the happy hour for, I don't know, lawyers, nurses, chefs, whoever, I don't care, whatever industry you choose, and network with those people. See if you can get maybe a job out of it. If not, maybe you can start a project with them. Maybe it can be pro bono, maybe it could be freelance, maybe whatever. It's all about what is the goal and what what is going to make the most impact, and make a list every single day. You're going to do 1, 2, 3, however many, however much you want the new role, actionable steps, and really keep yourself accountable. It's all about the discipline. That's really what, looking into the job market nowadays, that's all about the discipline. And again, it's not applying for the job that's been posted on LinkedIn for 7 months. I don't think you're going to get that.
Yeah, good points. Thank you, Victoria. And also, I just want to add to that, don't get too fixated on those 400 applicants. So, and there are like, quite a few things that, you can advise here, but essentially focus more on yourself, right? And not comparing yourself to others, but just remember that basically highly hireable candidate matrix that we've shown, right? Maybe add some more things in there if you'd like, and just build yourself up in all these different areas. And here's what we realize, and what I realized with lots of people I've interacted with, right? The more you do that, then naturally, like the less competition you actually have at that level, right? So instead of just trying to apply and compete, just make yourself better and better and better and better. And then naturally you'll have much less competition, right? You'll just be much more hireable, much more marketable, right? And just work on all that stuff, right? And we'll get to the more specific parts like case studies and softer skills and experience in a second. Yeah, so definitely work on that. And kind of like, as I said, just start with the end in mind. Understand, like, think from the standpoint of an employer. If you were an employer, who would you be looking for, right? And use that product and marketing analogy, right? Don't expect that. I think like one mistake that people make is just that's the problem with traditional way of transitioning into this career. They think that just because you learn something, somebody's like obligated to hire you, right? So it doesn't often work, right? It's because first you understand the requirements, you understand the skills and competencies that employers need, and then you actually build that up, right? And then when you become a much better match, much better fit. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I saw Brittany just answer my question. Thanks, Brittany. Yeah, I think sounds like people's concern is like having a hard time breaking into the field, and that concern them like making decision to transition to UX. That's how I understand it. And I think I agree with Victoria, and I think when you're doing job search, it needs to be strategic. You cannot like send out 100 resume in LinkedIn in one day and hope one person will reply to you. And I think I agree with Victoria, like treating job searching as your UX project. Do your research. What is the most effective way to find jobs? And surprisingly, networking is actually one of, like, based on the data, networking is actually most efficient. And actually that helped me to land a job during my transition. So I do agree that like do some research, like what is the most effective way and then work yourself around, mold yourself to the company needs, and it will give you a higher chance to find the job that you need. And like, I know like a lot of people, they just want to get a job, but regardless what industry it is, because you don't know what that would look like. But I think I will still encourage people research different industry, like at least understanding what's the differences between B2B or B2C UX design, and then understanding which area you want to go. So kind of define your scope and be strategic to mold yourself to that scope. So that's my 2 cents on here. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great points, Yao. And I also even made a note while you were responding. So basically kind of both Brittany's and Myra's questions, I think, are really good. And also just to stay more motivated and to be less psychologically affected by all the rejection and frustration, right? Just don't expect it to be easy to begin with. Just expect it to be hard. Expect it, because when you're doing job search is essential. That's the reason we compare it to marketing and sales. And the name of the game is rejection. You'll get a ton of it. So just try to expect it in the beginning. Don't expect it to be easy. And this way, when you're prepared and ready for it, it will be a little bit easier to take and go through. It will still not be pleasant, but maybe read a little bit about rejection, right? And kind of how to best deal with it and how to use it to your advantage instead of just being frustrated and upset because of it, right? So just imagine all those poor salespeople who's doing that every single day. That's the name of their game. It's basically like eternal job search, right? So and also, yeah, networking point is really good. I think, Myra, you mentioned 400 applicants. So yeah, and what probably the ones that will most likely get the job is probably someone who networked their way into the company, right? Or someone who have been referred, right? That's why just like meeting people, building relationships, making connections is crucial. You never know when something clicks, even if it's, don't be like, and we'll get to the job search phase in a second as well. But yeah, don't be too like transactional about it. Build relationships instead. Read a couple of books about networking, like Never Eat Alone or Give and Take or some other ones, and just be a giver, right? Provide value to others, and so you'll build relationships much better. And over time, you'll just have this huge network, right? And don't forget about once you actually land that job, because it's another mistake that people make, right? They just finally make it, they're like, oh, I'm done with it, right? And then they get stuck in one place and not get anywhere, right? So you have to keep doing it if you want to progress faster and grow more, etc. So, all right, enough of me talking. What softer skills do you guys think are most important in your opinion, in addition to what we already covered, and why?
Diplomacy, being humble and being willing to compromise, truly willing to compromise, even when you know that you're right. Because really, UX is about UX, but it's also about relationships within the company, because there can be people who are dead set against you, and they might be gatekeepers, and they'll keep you from making a change for years. They can. So it's really a lot about relationships too, I've found.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great one. I mean, obviously we talked about communication, being an effective communicator that helps you out all around, from networking to job searching to pitching your design ideas and trying to get them across the table, to campaigning for more resources once you're in the company. Like, I need funds for research, or I need more time for this. That weaves into collaboration. I think they all kind of weave into each other very well. So like, communication works well into collaboration. You have to be able to not only work with designers and researchers, but out one more view outside of that. You kind of work with call them like the three amigos or the three-legged stool or whatever the phrases are for it. But you have product manager, your engineer, and your product designer all working closely together on projects. And then outside of that, you're working with like marketing, you're working with sales, you're working with CSM, customer service managers, all these different cross-functional teams. And then just going to leave it with curiosity, because I think it's got to be curious.
You have to be curious. You have to be reading the Medium posts. You have to be reading the books, watching the YouTube video tutorials. I mean, even now, like I've had to create a prototype for a program. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember I was like, wait, how do I actually do this? So I watched the YouTube video. So that, again, that learning that we keep mentioning it over and over again. Like, I think we all still do time to time, right? Maybe not every day, not every week, but to a certain extent. Okay, 2 soft skills. Sorry, I'm like absolutely all over the place. I blame the coffee. Communication, that has been mentioned. Empathy, I believe that's been mentioned. Collaboration, that's been mentioned. The 2 big ones are problem solving, right? And I think we've kind of brushed against it because it's how do you find a job in a recession? How do you find a job when you have 10,000 candidates also competing for the job? So how do you solve that problem? And adaptability. Adaptability goes kind of hand in hand with problem solving, but it also, for me, is a kind of a part of the rejection. So you'll be rejected when you apply for your dream role and you won't get it. You'll interview 7 different rounds with 7 different people for that dream role. You will not get it. And also, once you do get your next UX role, there will be rejection across the board. There will be clients or your managers that will not like your presentation, that will not like the designs that you're putting forth. You have to be adaptable. You cannot take anything personally. UX is, you have to have thicker skin and you have to problem solve. That's it.
Yeah, great points. All right, so I think we covered most of the softer skills, right? So I know next question is what lots of people always ask about, right? About work experience. It's kind of our bread and butter at BeginX, basically, is to kind of hack and provide you guys a much more effective way to actually build that and, fix that gap. But yeah, to take a step back, how do you guys think you can build that work experience when most employers are already looking for candidates with 1 or 2 years of that experience, even for entry-level jobs often?
There's this little word called networking that I think we've mentioned a couple of times, but I mean, that's, when I was first getting into it, we all started somewhere with 0 experience. And that's how I got some experience outside of, taking the course BeginX, but also like afterwards, it's like, I need more, right? So how do I do that? Well, I'll just start blasting all my socials and telling people what I'm up to. Hey, I'm doing UX. This is what UX is. And these are some things I'm trying to do. So if anyone knows anyone that wants some free work, I'll do it, because I was just looking to build up my skills in certain areas. And so that led to a kind of long-term, just about a year working with a friends on an app, but they were like just concepting and getting off the ground. But like, it really gave me an opportunity to learn, gave me a lot of opportunity to fail, like over and over and over again, but that's where you learn. So learning the right way to do stuff, learning the wrong way to do stuff. But it all came through networking. But there's I feel like another kind of low-hanging fruit area there is also like nonprofit organizations. Like if you have a passion for Habitat for Humanity or volunteering at like dog shelters or something, like there's an opportunity there to like, just let's redo their website, and turn that into a case study. So I think there's options everywhere. It's just how creative can you be to kind of seek them out and like kind of pull them out and turn them into a project that you can eventually put in your portfolio that you can hopefully talk to through during a hiring manager or to a hiring manager during your interviewing process.
Thank you, Robbie. Yeah, great points. So
I also want to add on the networking part. I like the networking part is definitely something for me personally really don't want to do when I'm trying to find a job. I am kind of like an introvert, and definitely I have to step out my comfort zone. But I think there are strategy for networking too. So there are some preparation you can do before you suddenly like connect someone on LinkedIn and just call Rich, can you give me a job? I think most of the time you won't get feedback. But the strategy that I try is first, as I mentioned earlier, level down your scope. Like let's say if you are interested in healthcare. So before you talk to that person or connect to that person in the healthcare industry, learn about their company first, like what they are working on, what sectors they are in this company. And normally what I did is go to their company website, and if it is a company already like in the market already, you can find their investor letter. So that investor letter talk about their company future strategy, their business goal. You just need to get a basic understanding like of how healthcare industry is going. And then you have some way to like find topics to connect to this specific person. So you are not just jumping into telling people I'm interested in healthcare, but be more specific. Like, I am interested in it and I did this kind of research of your company. Can I know more about how did you do design for this company? I think then people would like be more interested in connecting with you and talking to you. And also second strategy is don't try to then ask for a job at the first time you network. I think that's like a red flag to a lot of people. So try to actually intentionally build connection first. So think about how you make friends. You first want to know each other before you commit. So you also like from the other person's standpoint, they also want to know you first before they could refer you to their company. So try to neutralize this kind of networking relationship before you actually ask that person for a referral job. And also definitely be prepared when people ask you that, oh, I want to refer you. Can you show me your portfolio? And then you say, oh, sorry, my portfolio is not ready. Then also that's not a good idea. So be prepared before you networking, and also find a good strategy for doing informational interviews will also help building relationship with people.
And how to find that is you watch YouTube videos, right? And read the Medium posts that we were kept talking over and over about. Can I just say one more thing about networking? So I've seen a few of you guys connect with me, and I'm sure Robbie and Gary and all of you have had this as well already on LinkedIn without a message. Now, tomorrow morning when I check my LinkedIn, I already checked, but you know what I mean? I'm going to I don't remember who you are. I've never seen you. I've never met you. Write a little message. If you've connected with something any of us have said, or if you want us to provide more information about something we're saying, write that little message to us, right? Start the conversation. That is networking. You're not asking us for a job. I don't want to be connected to a billion people who I don't know. I want to be connected with people that I kind of have a relationship with, right? Because when you're looking for a job, if you approach me, oh, well, we had a little side chat in May 2023. Of course, I'm going to help you get a job. Okay, going back to the initial question, which is how do you get the work? I think nonprofits, I think going with your Uncle Bob who has an app, a website, whatever, helping them is actually, one of the things that we kept recommending is put a team together and work on something together and work with a client. The reason this is super, super important is because all of the hard skills, using Figma, using Miro if you've never used Miro, using Asana if you've never used Asana, you will have to do that, right, on a team project. Of course, all of the soft skills as well. You're going to be problem solving. There will be conflicts. There will be people who don't show up. How do you communicate with them, right? Communication is, again, the thing that we kept saying over and over again. So do your due diligence and just really work and find any projects, anything you can do, anyone you can help. This is really the time to do that and fill up your portfolio and case studies with that.
Yeah, those are great points. Keep those insights coming. This is really good. And also to just add to that is basically experience and real projects. That's why I'm so passionate about it. It's a great way to not just build real resume experience and real portfolio case studies, but also the softer skills, right? Like the team collaboration and client management and presenting to clients, stakeholder management, right? Because when you do it, you basically do it in a real setting. So here's how your ideal project should look like, right? Based on years of experience running the company. And again, we make it much easier because you just plug into our system and ecosystem created for you, right? So it makes it much faster, but you can actually do something similar and try doing something similar on your own. Probably will take longer, right? Because you have to do everything on your own and figure it out. But basically you just need, ideally you want a team, ideally you want some kind of company, and you want to ensure that first of all, you can actually showcase the project, showcase the portfolio, right? So, I mean, the case study, right? So don't do 3 months of work and then realize that, oh, I cannot show anything, right? So it's, and I would rather volunteer and have, the project be much more end-to-end and more comprehensive than get paid a little bit and then have them, kind of cut all these different phases and basically you not having a great case study. Right, so just make sure your case studies are long, end-to-end, ideally, or at least cover some of the key phases of the UX process that are comprehensive. And yeah, I think those are some of the, ideally get a mentor as well, so someone who knows what they're doing, right? Because if this is the first time you're doing it, if you don't have anyone guiding you, and if the client is not UX expert, it may not go that well, or it may take forever, or it may not get anywhere at all, just to be honest with you, right? It's so that's why it's kind of important to try to clarify that in advance. To find those companies, you can reach out to different accelerators, right, or incubators or nonprofit networks and organizations. Ideally, try to get a dynamic, like an interactive application that you are working on, not just static information display type of site, but something more interactive so there is an actual experience, right? So that will typically make a little bit of a bigger, more interesting case study rather than just, trying to do this, typical static information display site, right? So Gary, I know you've been quiet. That doesn't seem like you. You want to add anything in terms of experience building tips?
Well,
I think your mute takes a little bit to unmute.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
now.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of just banding together and going on LinkedIn and saying, we're a group of UX people looking for a project, looking for a company who will put us to work. People will jump at that, especially since now we're heading into an economic downturn. There are companies that are trying desperately to save money here and there, and they've maybe smaller companies who've laid off UXers or people in that field in their own company, and they don't have that service anymore. So it would be a timely, like a miracle, if you showed up with a group of people who are willing to do something for them for free. So I don't know. I think that's a great way to do it. I'm a researcher, so I don't really, I guess I'm trying to think of a way you could do that. You could do a project. You could pair up, even if you just have a researcher and a designer, you could really do some, serious damage on a UX process for a small company, just even with 2 people. So don't be shy about that. And it would be good to get, if you think you're a designer, play the researcher role. If you think you're a researcher, play the designer role, and just sort of see how it goes. After all, you're giving away work, but like Victoria just wrote in the comments, I'm not sure how I would guard against being, somebody taking advantage of you, but yeah, let's look into that too. And honestly, there's a ton of advice out there and best practices, lots and lots of platforms where you can get Slack groups, all kinds of things from people who are in the field. They've been in the field for a long time, and they're, it doesn't take anything for them to just reply to you when you have a question like that. How do I guard against something, or how do I navigate this situation? People are willing to help.
And I'll just say, like, now, especially due to like post-pandemic, everyone is remote, everyone is a virtual world. There's just so many people that have started online shops, have started a website, have started a side hustle, like this is the time. Do you remember what I was saying? Like, this is the goal. What is the essential thing? Maybe find that one person that has some random e-commerce website, approach them, say, hey, I'm a UX designer. I'm really looking to build up my skills. Can I help you out? As I mentioned in the chat, let's try to get paid for it. Pro bono works, last resort. But if you have to do it, you'll do it, right? Because it'll give you experience. There was something else I was going to say, but I already forgot. Yeah. Just continue to just like evolve, like look for the opportunities in the world. I think there's so many of them.
Yeah, yeah, and just in
something-
general. Oh yeah, Robbie, go ahead.
I was just something Carrie said that I think, you know, you could go even like smaller, even more micro, like she was talking about like small companies, but like think about like just small businesses or a small business, you know, mom and pop, one location, maybe they have a Facebook page, but they don't have a website. Perfect opportunity. Maybe it's something that you enjoy, like they have a coffee shop or they have fill in the blank store and they don't have a website. So it's a perfect opportunity for you to go and kind of you talk your way into an opportunity there, maybe even barter. Like, hey, can I get 3 months of free coffee and I'll hook you up with a brand new site. So I think that's something that popped up. And another thing, going back to like the networking piece, but also could lead to more opportunity to like, I mean, talking to people, but like volunteering is something that helped me out quite a bit. Is just finding the meetup groups, finding the conferences that are in your town. I saw people posting like New York and Boston, Miami, like all these big cities. Anywhere that has a meetup group at AIGA, a UXPA, any of those organizations, volunteer for them, leads you into conferences, hundreds of people, you know, and little pro tip, like if you get, if you volunteer for signing people in and seeing their names and the name badges, usually they'll give you a sticker. So like if someone's hiring, they give you a blue sticker. If they're open for whatever, they color code the stickers on the name tags. So now you just signed in all these people, you know, all the people that are hiring. So when your job's done, you can walk around and mingle and go find and go talk to them.
That's a big part of how I got my first job. That right there.
That is such a pro tip. I'm totally going to steal that. I haven't even considered that. I remembered the thing that I forgot. Hackathons. Are they still around? I don't know. I remember doing them back in the day. I was not on the coding side because you guys know my coding is very lacking, but I would actually go and design things. I remember I went to one in Microsoft and I actually worked closely with a developer. Like we worked on a project together and he did not know what UX is. Like we still continue to stay in touch. And again, going back to my earlier point, like go to those events, even outside of the UX field, go to those conferences, network with those people because those people work at the companies that might be hiring.
Awesome. So that's, yeah, wonderful tips. Lots of great insights. I think we addressed this area of experience building pretty well. So Julie, I think hopefully your question got answered pretty thoroughly. I know this was not just your question, but lots of people voted it, and we actually had a similar question about experience. But let us know, and yeah, maybe add any follow-up questions related to that. And I think Mariama also put a great question. So Mariama, we'll get to that in a second. I want to take, I know your question at the moment has the most upvotes in terms of being active and online presence. So once we get to that marketing and search stage, and we'll try to move a little bit faster because we're obviously trying to balance like how in depth and how valuable the discussion is, right? And at the same time, not take it, for 3 hours, right? So, anyway, how many case studies do you think? This is like the question that everyone asks all the time. I've heard it probably like 357 times. How many case studies do you think one needs to get a UX job?
3
I'll
to
say
5.
it depends.
Isn't that what we're giving? Isn't that what we're telling everyone? 3 to 5. They have to be good.
Based on your experience, maybe let us know like how many did you have, and or like what do you think?
I had one.
Wow.
But I also worked with a coach and she made me, she forced me to go out and talk about the work I had done. And I was a medical device salesperson in an operating room working for a company that made a digital product, video arthroscopy system. So I had a perfect user, like ethnography, field study, research opportunity right there. And so I was working with her trying to get into UX, and she told me how to create a case study. And then she said, now get out there and talk about it. Go to UX meetups. I was in New York at the time. And then I went to a UX meetup, UX research meetup, the only one in New York. And they have a couple, I don't know how often they do it, but they do one session, maybe once a month or once every couple, like 6 months or something. And they give people a 10-minute slot. And I got up there and talked about it. I had slides and everything. And believe me, it is not easy to get up in front of a bunch of employed, maybe senior UX researchers when you don't have a job and you aren't even in the field and talk about the research you're doing. So you can do it. It's just uncomfortable, but you got to do it.
Yeah, you definitely have to do a lot of uncomfortable things and get basically yourself outside of that, stereotypical comfort zone, right? It's
Yeah, you just have to
unavoidable.
ask yourself, how bad do I want this? How bad do I want this? And if you want it, what do you have to lose? I mean, you might never see any of these people again. If I made I just kept telling myself, if I make a complete ass of myself up in front of this group of people, I guess I'll just make an ass of myself. I mean, whatever. It's so, and also I will say, I don't know if it's like this anymore. Probably not. But one of the reasons the managing director, the girl who hired me first, she told me that even though she knew I wasn't qualified, didn't have the experience, she said that she hired me because of the enthusiasm and the curiosity that she could see I had. So you can't be like a robot. You have to show people that you're absolutely dying to get into this. You'll do anything to get in. You're super passionate. You're curious. You're ask them questions, you got to appear like you want this.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, that was great. Robbie.
I was gonna say, going back to the case study thing, I keep saying it depends because, I had 2 case studies. When I first landed my job, I was working on a third one, and, the importance of metrics and tracking metrics on your own portfolio site gave me the insights not to do a third case study. So I had 2 full complete case studies, shuffled them around a little bit and moved like my most powerful one into slot 1, my next one into slot 2. I had a third one that just had an under construction and an image of what I was working on and a little teaser, and said, more coming soon, and started following the Google Analytics, linked it up to my site, and started finding that like 100% of the people made it to the first one, maybe 70%, 60% made it to the second one. And then it was like in the 20s or some low percentage. I was like, I'm not going to spend my time on this. And guess what's still on my website now? That case study under construction with the image holder. And, it's something that I'm passionate about. I built a spelling tool when I was a teacher, but I never flushed it out. But it's a conversation piece. But again, I say it depends, because at that time when I was trying to break in, those are my 3 case studies. But what I used was technology and metrics to realize is my time, is it worth the effort to spend all this time on these, or I can make these other case studies stronger and kind of shop those around. So.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Robbie. Yeah, and based on just our own research, right, and just interview and analyzing lots and lots of candidates, usually, right, so Carrie made it with 1, but that is definitely not the norm. So if you're making this transition, don't count on that happening, right? If that happens, wonderful, amazing, awesome. Plus, I think Carrie's case studies was actually quite strong. It wasn't a hypothetical thing, right, Carrie? It was like a real. Yeah,
It was real.
so
Yeah. I just was a salesperson doing all this UX research.
Yeah, so definitely. So typically 3 is like the magic number. And we recommend specifically at BeginX, we recommend 2 of them being with real clients. So you can actually stand out from your competition, from everyone else who just has hypothetical stuff, right? And so whichever way you get those case studies and real projects, like you know, basically it can work in different ways, right? We could help you, right? If you're admitted and apply, et cetera, or you can do it on your own again. Right. But yeah, that's definitely crucial, especially now, right? Because again, the theme today is basically in this uncertain time, layoffs, right? So it's especially even more important to make yourself more marketable, right? And stand out more, right? And how do you do it? Not by sending 1,000 more applications, right? But being a better candidate who suits better and just expecting a ton of rejection, right? That's again, once it just reiterate that point. All right. So next, I know we're running a little bit short on time. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible because we want this discussion to be as valuable to you guys as possible. I know time is actually flying. I know, at least for me, like it seems to be going pretty fast, even though I've run a lot of these similar discussions before. What do you think? So maybe, I know we've discussed a lot of this stuff already, but maybe just like if we did a quick recap, in your own opinion, right? What do employers look for in UX candidates? Like if you were to summarize kind of a lot of the things that we already discussed, how do you position yourself as an attractive candidate that employers really want to hire, especially in the current environment during all these tech layoffs?
I think I can talk about this from my perspective. I think it also kind of tie with what I want to talk about, like how many case studies that you want to present. I think case study quantity could be like, it depends, but I think at least you have to have 2 to 3 projects on hand that you would like to present, because case study or portfolio is just like the first step you get into introduce yourself to the company, but eventually during the interview process, you have to do like a presentation, and normally presentation would, most of the company will require you to present 2 to 3 projects in 1 hour. So from that point of view, I felt like having at least 2 to 3 projects on that you are confident on hand is very important. And speaking about like the question that you just mentioned, like what employers are looking for, and I actually, the practice that I did before was reverse engineering. So I basically already scoped down what company or what industry I want to go to, and then I actually download their JD, the job description, and see find patterns, like what kind of skills that they are looking for, and then kind of map it out with my case study or the project that I'm going to do, see whether my project would meet their requirement on these skills. It could be the requirement could coming from like basic skills required for UX designer, could require from a domain knowledge standpoint. So if you are someone who already have some background knowledge on certain industry, utilize it. Because that, if you are still want to go into the same industry, like again, I use healthcare as example. If you are coming from healthcare industry, then utilize that domain knowledge and think about what pain points or what kind of case study you can make for healthcare. And then your background with healthcare plus your case study that present your soft skill, hard skill can help you get into the healthcare tech company. So that's how I did it before. So be a little bit strategic about when you make case study, intentionally target to the industry, or at least like what kind of platform you want to do design on, like web design or phone design, or like at least have a goal, I think, from my perspective.
That's such great advice. What you're doing is creating, you're coming at it from 2 sides. You ideally, first, you're working on the deliverables and the kinds of things that you have control over. And then from doing the networking thing, what you're doing is preparing yourself here, and then the networking thing is bringing in leads, shall we say. And the two will eventually connect, and you'll get the right one that'll enable you. The more you do that, the more you're likely to get something.
Yeah, and actually one thing I exercised before was I actually know a lot of people have hard time finding free jobs, like free volunteer job. Like I heard that it's very, very competitive right now. So maybe plan B for another idea for you all is to think about what domain knowledge you have from which industry, and then build a case study around it. Because you have that domain knowledge, you can build a deeper case study on it, and then bring that case study and talk to the expert after. Like you can network people from healthcare, let's say, and then say, hey, I built a case study by myself and I want to hear some expert advices. And this is another way you can build connection with people. So it's just something I tried before, and I guess it worked, but hopefully it works to current industry or current market.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really wonderful insights. I think you had a really good approach. It's and also I think what it kind of reminded me of is pointing out the transferable, kind of like identifying your low-hanging fruit type of opportunities. Like if you're a teacher, right, then maybe ed tech could be easier potentially to transition to. If you're an architect, maybe something related to like urban planning or real estate, right? Basically, if you can showcase your previous experience, and it can differentiate you from all the other applicants, right? So this like basically transferable skills and backgrounds. And I think, so Nicole has a question related to this, right? It's kind of related to projects and portfolio in the area that we're currently discussing, right? So I want to take that quickly. I know we already touched on this and addressed basically the importance of doing real work. But so Nicole is asking, how can you show results or metrics on projects when all you have are conceptual projects, since jobs won't hire you without any real life experience? Anything else you guys want? I know we already discussed this a little bit, but anything else you guys want to add?
I think at least from my point of view, if this is a conceptual project, you still can show impact. So I divided impact by first business impact, secondly personal growth, and then third it's like user impact or customer impact, like your focus user. So since this is a conceptual project, you probably won't have business impact. So at that point, you can just like what I said, talk to the expert who are inside this industry and get their feedback. And then their feedback could be your business impact, like at least a business feedback. And then secondly, I think you still, as a conceptual project, you still can do usability test. So you will get user impact from there. For example, 4 out of 5 people say that your design solved their problem, and that kind of number is still valid as a user impact. And then the third personal impact is like how you grow from this project. Did you learn something? Did you actually change your mind or change your understanding of how UX work? I think these are something you can consider. So 3 kinds of impact, and see which bucket you can find resources to find out the result. And I think that will work for most of the conceptual projects.
Awesome. Love that. Anyone wants to add anything else? All right, so let's move on to the next question here, because we're a little bit short on time, and then we'll be wrapping up relatively soon and try to take a few questions from the chat, from Q&A. We already have been doing so, and Mariama will get to your question in a second, because I know it's been really popular, so I assume a lot of people are interested in knowing that. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of projects, right? Like maybe 2 questions kind of combined into one. What do you think of the top 3 things for an effective portfolio, and also which types of projects you think are most effective?
Wait, sorry, can you say the first one again?
Sorry, I gotta put together both questions so we move faster. You can choose which one you want to answer. What are the top 3 things for an effective portfolio, in your opinion, especially in the current environment? Or what you can also talk about is types of projects that are most effective in one's portfolio.
I mean, I'll start with the second one. I think the most effective projects in the portfolio are similar to like what Yao was just describing, as far as like where can I show impact? What did you kind of like, what was the problem? What did you do? How did you solve for that problem? And what kind of impact and what kind of return was there? And at the highest level, that's what the case study, should kind of should cover. If you can do that 3 times and in a very effective way and communicate that, be able to talk about it and engage an audience with that, I think you're leaps and bounds ahead of the competition. Your competition out there trying to get that same job you are. So, is if you can just show change, by the work that you're doing, whether it was paid project, unpaid, but some type of change happening, and you're learning, then I think those kind of projects will benefit you a lot.
I'll just add, I just want to add on to what Yao and Robbie were saying. Always lead with your impact to the bit, and by that I mean the impacts that Yao was describing, mostly the impact to the business. If you can't come across that, or somebody in the industry that can review what you've done, like she said, that's the impact that people who are hiring are looking for, especially in this market. And what Robbie said, if you've got all that kind of impact and you lead with it, and you can show your process, that's gold.
One more thing to add on to that, if you're passionate about it, oh my gosh, like what Carrie said earlier, like it shows, your excitement will resonate. It'll shine out through you as you're talking through your case study and interview. So like the closer you are to loving what you just did, like, this project like very intimately, and that will shine as you're sitting there talking to a hiring manager and like describing your process through it. And like, that's what hiring managers want to see. They want to see that excitement. And that gets, me as someone that hires, that gets me excited to see someone else excited about their work, because that will show, that kind of gives a spotlight on like, wow, this is what I'm about to experience if I hire this person on my team. It's
Right.
like this
That's what
much
you wanna work
enthusiasm
with.
and excitement. Yeah, exactly. Bring it.
Awesome. Yeah, great tips. And I know, Victoria, you're unmuted. So while you're, I definitely want to get your take on what do you think on like the top things that make a portfolio effective, right? And if anyone else wants to add to that, while your guys are thinking about that, I also want to ask our audience a question. So in the chat, put like, so far, what has been the biggest takeaway? Like the biggest, maybe action item, maybe takeaway. So just feel free to just put it like as a quick one-liner phrase or in the chat, like what has been the most insightful so far, like the most useful. Okay, so we have some folks answering. Don't be shy. Really want to, make it a little bit more engaging and interactive. So yeah, think about, not just listen, think about, synthesize what you've learned so far, and just let us know, what do you think have been your biggest takeaway so far? And all right, perfect the portfolio. We have network. Yes, right. So it seems like people get the networking point really well. Group project. All right, awesome. Perfect the portfolio. Thank you. Yeah, awesome. Mariama, Ryan, track portfolio metrics and network. Enthusiasm. Make me consider what value I can show from my work. UX design everything. Yep. Dual process, strengthening yourself and networking to bring in leads. All right, awesome. Love it, love it. Keep that coming. And so, anything else, Victoria? I think you wanted to mention a point about portfolios.
I mean, so many things to say. First of all, I I mean, so much to say. Okay. So the project, I will be honest, and I think we kind of touched upon this in the very, very beginning of this presentation or the Zoom call. I've mentioned that, you know, companies are becoming much more aware of what UX is and the value it brings. That being said, those companies might want to see a portfolio and the case studies specifically in the industry that they're in. So that being said, if you're applying for a job at an e-commerce platform and you don't have any e-commerce, even though like you have 7 years of experience, they're going to look past you. They're going to look for the e-commerce person. So be really conscious of the industry that you're looking for. Be really conscious of the type of companies and even the type of work. Are you more interested in research, as I mentioned before, design, UX design, product design? It's a lot of visual thing. It's probably more than you actually think it is, at least from my personal experience. I'll also highlight, again, something to echo what everyone has been saying. It's like thinking above and beyond, right? It's looking into what impact your project has made, even if it was conceptual, even if it was for your cousin Joe, like how did you impact it? It's really being strategic. It's just, and also I think that's one of the top things that I'm looking for. It's curiosity and a thirst to learn and improve. Because those tools that we mentioned, Figma, 2 years down the road, there will be a new tool. And frankly, those tools are really easy to learn. Like we're not like, you know, it's not brain surgery, let's be honest. It's all about those soft skills. It's all about the curiosity. It's all about the thirst to learn. It's all about when you're presenting, are you excited about the work? Or are you like, yeah, well, the junior designer designed that. I don't actually like it, but I'm including it just to include it. Like, that's not going to come off really well to the hiring manager. So it's all of that.
Yeah, those are great points. Thank you, Victoria. And anyone else wants to add anything briefly about top 3 things making an effective portfolio?
I mean, UX your portfolio. So like, as long as it's consistent with everything else that you have, like, you know, make sure the same visual design elements are tracked across your portfolio, to your resume, to any other assets that you have that you're sharing as like an artifact or deliverable to try to find that job. Make sure they have that connective piece, you know, so like, and I guess that same idea is like the visual design piece. When you're designing your portfolio, like don't overthink it. That's something I struggled with early on, was like, I have to all like micro interactions and everything's got to like jiggle like Jello because that looks really cool now. But no, it's like very distracting to a lot of people, you know? So like, think about how can you be super effective with your portfolio, showcasing the strengths and the skills that you want to, but in a way that's not distracting to the person that is there to read about a case study that you did. So, you know, there's just an infinite amount of great examples out on the web of like great top 10 portfolios of April 2023. You know, I'm sure someone's pulled together a list, and, you know, you'll be able to find some like epic examples that are just super clean, super crisp, and super easy to like navigate. I saw some question in here about like, what if I want to show passion or my side projects? You can definitely include it, but don't showcase it as your UX, you know? So I think it shows your personality, who you are, you're about you. I love to illustrate, I love to bake, but if that's a case study, use it. But if it's not, kind of put it in an area that's not distracting from focusing on like UX.
Yeah, great points.
Can I add
So,
one more
yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Really fast. Okay. I've looked into so many portfolios via BeginX as a mentor, just out and about as a mentor to junior talent. And I cannot believe the amount of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes I have seen. There should be absolutely zero excuses. English is not my native tongue, and I use Grammarly for everything. I mean, everything, no matter who I'm sending anything to, although maybe not in the chat tonight. you use the tools to ensure that, again, the communication, right? It's like the top soft skill that we kept mentioning all throughout the evening. Make sure that there's no spelling mistakes, there's no grammar mistakes, and also use AI to write some of the stuff for you. Hot tip.
All right, great points. So another quick question. So I think Ryan asked a question. I know it didn't get a lot of upvotes, Ryan, but I just wanted to kind of mention it. I think we addressed most of it, right? Where you're basically asking how you can stand out in a saturated field, right? So I think, yeah, by now we probably addressed quite a few of those key points. And basically, so if you just refer back to that framework that we use, the career transition roadmap that you guys will get at the end, and then basically just what we discussed. But if we haven't, let us know in the chat or in Q&A. All right, and I think we finally got to Mariama's question, which is more about job search and LinkedIn and online presence. What are the top ways to market yourself online, build an online presence? Do you have to be active on Behance, Dribbble, etc.? Has anyone been successful with just LinkedIn in their portfolio?
I don't think it's ever too early to start promoting. If you start documenting your experience today and start journaling and then turn it into like a Medium article, like in my first 3 months, my first quarter of learning how to do UX, this is what I learned. My second quarter, this is what I learned. You'll get a following. People will be interested in that. Like, you have taken one step further than people that are thinking about getting into UX by coming to this session tonight. You have the curiosity. So like, create a blog, create some type of documentation around your progress from today through getting your first job, publish it as a Medium article, and you can start creating a following from there. And then rinse and repeat. What's my first year of my first company look like? What does my second year look like? As I keep growing the ladder. I've never done any of that, but it seems like a great way where you're getting helped by other people in the industry, like trying to get to that level, but you're also helping others that are maybe afraid to take that first step, or, that are curious, like, what do I need to learn? You've already done the research, you've synthesized everything, and you've written a report, and now you're sharing it back out so people can easily consume and digest and, click on all the fun links and like learn this stuff. So I think you can start doing it right now.
Yeah, use yourself as the UX project, as I've said earlier. Regarding Behance and Dribbble, so Dribbble, I love to hate it and I hate to love it, because Dribbble is really pretty designs. I mean, it's so pretty, it's so shiny, it's so great, but a lot of it is not good for the users. Where's the back button on this page? I don't know. They just didn't put it in there because there's no place for it. There's no space. So if you're truly becoming a UX or a product designer, UX designer, I'll say, stay away from Dribbble. Dribbble is like the pretty things. It's the things that inspire you. And of course, that might be the things that like end up on the cutting room floor that you want to highlight. Again, going back to Dribbble, we have at my agency hired freelance, usually freelance, never really full-time talent from Dribbble. But that is because we do a lot of new business pitches, and sometimes we just need to show like really pretty things that don't really make sense. As for Behance, I actually think that's a pretty good use of your time. Frankly, I think that you should have a portfolio, a resume, and your LinkedIn should look really, really good, and you should have a PDF portfolio as well. But I do think that Behance, you're able to put together a case study in a beautiful way. I mean, I've seen it done. So it depends.
Thank you, Victoria. And I also want to take and just answer a question, Alina's question briefly. So she's asking about those pro bono projects, how to present them in the portfolio and on the LinkedIn page. So yeah, I'll answer it briefly and I'll let you guys maybe add something. Usually, right, you can basically just put yourself as like a pro bono UX consultant, right, and the company name. Typically, that's what you can do. The beauty of that, right, the difference versus hypothetical versus finding even a small company that you're helping. It's that it's real experience that goes on your resume and your LinkedIn, right? So it's huge difference, right? When the recruiters look at your profile, right, look at your LinkedIn, resume, etc. I mean, it's, huge difference, right? So basically, yeah, you can just put UX designer or UX or pro bono consultant or something like that and company name. Anything else you guys want to add? Like anything, maybe you disagree with something or agree, or in terms of how to showcase your pro bono or volunteering projects on your resume or LinkedIn?
I say put them on your portfolio, certainly, unless the hiring or the hiring manager or the recruiter specifically asks you, were you paid for it? Which I don't know if they would. I don't know if anyone has asked me that, but unless they specifically ask for it, I don't think you have to put down that it's pro bono. I mean, obviously, and again, this is why I don't recommend doing like those fake, like, oh, let's imagine Nike.com. Like, no, you're not. You're working in a silo. You're not working with the real client. You're not working with the problems and the obstacles of a real life project, which is again why I encourage everyone to take those small businesses, like everything.
I have a question for you, Victoria. If someone asks you if you've been paid for this work, does that seem like a legit question? I mean, are they going to judge you and say, just because you weren't paid doesn't mean it's not real? I wouldn't want to give somebody that impression.
Hey, touche, yeah. And again, if you are getting asked that, that's pretty good. That means you're getting kind of an interview, right? Or like the initial phone call. And that is also, I always say it's kind of like dating. You're also figuring out what kind of manager, what kind of hiring manager is that? Do I want to work at this company? And if anyone ever asks you anything that you think is kind of strange, like, oh, like, did you get paid for this? Oh, like, how much? Run for the hills.
Yeah, run for the hills. Yeah, yeah. Although I will say my very first job, not the JP Morgan job, but the very first job in UX was for a research agency and in their sales department. And I worked for a beast of a woman. And I actually got fired from that job. So you'll get another job. Don't worry if it happens. You won't have to work for that horrible person forever. But if you get your foot in the door and it's your first job, might be worth taking just for a little bit of experience.
Yeah, but then you're just going to be miserable.
Yeah, but you know what? How bad do you want to do it? If you want to do it, you want to get into the field, and all I have to do is stay here for 6 months to a year. You just take the job and start looking for another job immediately. But at least you got money coming in and you're in the industry.
Yeah, but if the next job calls your prior job, they might find that out. So again, like pros and cons. I know what you. Can I just say really fast, quick side note? So ever since I said the LinkedIn thing, you guys should write me a message. I have seen people write me messages. So thank you to everyone who's still dialed in. I appreciate that. And also, don't just do it for us in the Brady Bunch boxes. Do it to everyone that you connect with. Get into the habit of, I don't know you, you don't know me. Like, give me a little hint of why do you want to be connected via LinkedIn? Why are you sending me an email? Why are you just showing me your resume? Like, I have no idea who you are. Get into the habit of, again, networking 101.
Awesome. So I think we're running out of time already. So I want to take maybe 1 or 2 questions max, and then we'll be wrapping up. We'll tell you about the program in a second, and also just wrap up the event. I think we already answered this one. What do you think are the most effective channels for looking for work at the moment? So networking. That's my hunch so far. Anything you guys want to add to that in terms of channels or methods for job search?
I got this list. I love joining Slack, or not. I am a part of a lot of Slack groups that are, tens of thousands of people all over the world are in it. So like, not only is it a great place to pose any type of question you could possibly imagine, how broad or how macro or how, micro the question is, but all of these places have, I mean, think about it. There's tens of thousands of people in some of these groups, and they're posting jobs all over the world, internships, remote, like you name it. And I'll drop a link, or I'll drop like a list in the chat. But it's some of my favorite places, and just to see what's out there. I mean, it's like almost like fun, easy reading, like what's going on in the industry, like what are people hiring for. So I'll send you some of my favorite ones, that Slack groups that I enjoy, where I get like valuable feedback on the work that I'm doing and like specific use cases, but also like the job boards there are pretty active, and same with like potential mentorship opportunities,
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. And by the way, for our amazing audience, so if you feel like there have been, like, if you had like a burning question that you really were expecting to learn something about and it hasn't been answered yet, please type that into Q&A and let us know, like highlight that. We may be able to take that quickly, especially if it's something like really crucial that you think is related to transition into UX during this time, etc. Right? And while your guys are doing that, I also want to quickly highlight. So Xinyi, I think, had a question. Do you have any suggestions on how do you find which kind of company you want to work in, like tech or sustainability or health? So I'm just gonna chime in really quickly at first, and then maybe you guys can add a little bit, because I want to kind of get through as many questions as possible, but very quickly. In terms of right now, right, if it's your first job, one, I would highlight your transferable experience, right? So transferable, like your background, and make it an advantage for a future job. That said, I would not be picky in terms of like where you, I mean, there's no luxury to just, it's not like you have 25 offers of your first job and then you're just picking. If you're in that position, wonderful, amazing work, but most people are not in that position. So, right, so while you want to focus and try to narrow it down, like don't try to overdo it. Also, another thing, as I mentioned earlier, to take into account is, since there are tech layoffs, look for non-tech companies, but UX roles, right? So look at a lot of those services companies, startups, agencies, just corporations in general, especially maybe any corporations that are likely to position to do well if the recession is to come, etc. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of like what to focus on?
I hate to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to try to avoid saying it. But if you contact people that work in possibly another industry that you might be interested in, you know what I'm talking about. If you message them and you do something, there's a word for it, but I'm not going to say it. You can actually find out. Just ask them like, hey, can you explain a little bit of what the UX process is like around here? Can you explain a little bit about what you do day to day? And then based on that research, again, thinking of it, this entire thing as a UX project, your employment, you can actually figure out, okay, well, for a fact, I know that the big companies, they have all of the, they have the UX researcher, they have the UI designer, they have somebody that's just doing the design systems. That's interesting. At a startup, they do things way differently, and they're actually not using a custom design system. They're using something that is pre-built by someone else. So it's, again, that conversation that you have with other people in the industries. It's a great way to meet other people. And I did not say it.
Thank you, Victoria. And I know Lily has had a question about AI, right? Which is like on everyone's mind at the moment. So amazing, wonderful question, Lily. We're not going to address it now because it doesn't really fall directly into this topic, but that said, I love your question. How do you think AI will impact the future of designers and the field of UX overall? So I think it's an amazing, wonderful question. We're actually thinking about doing a whole event dedicated just to that at some point. And I think this is definitely a crucial, very important trend. But I think overall, it's you should be fine, right? So overall, you should be fine. I think overall it's going to increase your productivity, right? At least in the quite a few more years to come. I have no idea what the ultimate AI impact is going to be in like tens of years or decades, right? And I don't think anyone does. But I think it's should at least it should be fine. Like it's in the next few years, and probably quite a few years. I know there is a lot of concern for a lot of, I've been researching this quite a bit myself, a lot of different roles being automated. especially the ones, that are a little bit more mechanical, more kind of process driven, step by step, that are more easily automatable. So yeah, but even ChatGPT says that UX designers should be thriving in AI future. That's what I was hearing from it. But anything else you guys want to add? Quickly?
Okay, so AI, I mean, we can talk until 3 a.m. New York time because that is like my favorite topic of all time. Robbie, you and I will have to connect because it seems like you're quite keen on it as well. I don't think that AI will replace jobs immediately. That being said, I think it doesn't replace the people. I think it makes sense for the people to figure out how they're going to be using AI, right? Like the computer did not replace, it replaced some of the things, right? But without somebody using a computer, it's just a paperweight. So learn how to implement it, learn about all of those platforms that are like mushrooms popping up every single day. And yeah, get ready for it because I think it's gonna change everything.
Yeah, there's a great video, actually. I think it's from Nielsen Norman folks on YouTube. I don't remember the exact name, but if you put like AI, UX, Nielsen Norman, you should find it, where someone asks a similar question. He has a great answer. Basically, his take was that he is expecting us, or basically folks in the UX field, to just become much more productive with AI, and basically you can be able to do a lot more output and produce a lot more output, right? And basically, so it will drive, in his opinion, it will have like a net positive impact on the economy and just standard of living, etc. But yeah, again, I promise not to talk about it, but we still started talking about this. Yeah, it's a very interesting, fascinating topic. We'll talk about it in one of our future events. I know we have to wrap up, so last question, because I know you guys are probably really tired by now, and we want to let our audience go as well. And a last question, any additional resume or LinkedIn tips you guys have for anyone in the audience?
Does it have to just be about that? I'll keep it short.
Do you want to talk about AI?
No. I mean, yeah, let's do it. It's not even me talking right now. I've been gone this whole time.
Yeah, just resume,
now I lost my
LinkedIn
train of
tips,
thought.
or search tips. That's any additional, like your top words of wisdom you want to share before we tell people about the program we're running and then wrap up.
It's so easy to get overwhelmed at this stage. If you've heard drinking from the fire hose, that's what I do at every job I've ever started for the first 3 months. But like getting into UX, it's easy to, you feel like a kid in a candy store. You have to touch and you have to do, and you feel like you have to know every single thing all at once. Like, don't do that. What's the saying? Like, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. Take little bite-sized pieces and eventually you'll finish it off and you'll have your job once you hit the tail. That's my
Awesome.
lever.
Thank you, Robbie. Gary, Victoria, Yao, any additional tips on resume, LinkedIn, or search, or kind of your key words of wisdom you want to share before we wrap up?
I mean, give me like 7 hours. I mean, again, I'm going to mention the 2 letters, AI. Use the job description, scan it for the keywords, and rewrite your resume. Do not, I keep seeing this everywhere, as well as the spelling mistakes. Do not create a resume in Figma. Please, please, please. Create it in a Google Doc, create it in, I think there's like free software that you can download. Create it in a Word document. And also, please, please, please do not make it pretty with rainbows and photos and colors. A resume is your invite for the interview. A resume should be telling me, what is your experience? Who are you? And how do I get in touch with you to ask you more about your experience? Please don't overthink it.
Thank you, Victoria.
I was just going to say, sorry, I was looking at a question. I think you can do anything, but the key is not losing your motivation and don't get discouraged, because there was something, I'll post it in the BeginX group, or I guess I'll post it. I'll give it to Michael and maybe he can figure out where to post it. But it's one of those things that I have on my fridge that's it's titled Don't Give Up, and it's about how like Thomas Edison, what he had to endure before he was successful, or Abraham Lincoln, and all these people that you hear of, like Michael Jackson, or I don't know, not him, maybe not him, but anyway, just when you look at something, you think, oh my God, that's what they that's what they did before, like 6 failed businesses. That's amazing. So just find ways to keep that motivation, because you will succeed. You'll keep at it. Don't give up. Don't give up.
And my 2 cents here is, no matter is case study or resume, outcome focus or impact focus, not output focus. So try to, whatever you do, whatever things that you have, even in your case study or resume, highlight your impact and what value you will bring to the business. And I think that's the answer that HR want to hear at the beginning. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Love it. Also, just quickly wanted to answer to Crystal here. She was asking, does anyone have any tips for someone who's working full-time, not a UX, trying to get that first job? How do you keep how do you keep a good working life balance? It's harder, Crystal, because essentially what I would suggest is just dedicate, if you're working, right, you're in a good position, right? Because you are having income while making this transition, right? That's not everyone's situation, right? That's basically a more gradual approach, and that's wonderful. And you're saving a ton of money and avoiding a ton of debt. But that said, you'll have to put in more effort, right? You basically just have to dedicate and time block your like work sessions, right? And maybe outside of work, have certain times. That's what's, has worked for me, and, achieving related goals in the past when you're doing something part-time. Is basically like during certain evenings, you have 2 hours blocked in your calendar where you focus on just that, for example, right? And yeah, that's, I would say, but yeah, it is more effort because you're working and then you're transitioning. So it's that's the cost of just doing it much more gradually and, with much less as well.
I would also say that when you're doing that, when you're working full time and you're trying to get into UX, take good care of yourself, get good sleep, eat good food. All that will keep your brain and your body working, which you need to do this. That's a working full time and looking for a job. That's like 2 full-time jobs. So you need to be healthy to do that. So really, really watch that.
Thank you, Carrie.
Can I just say, like, take your phone right now and delete the social media apps, right? Like, how many hours are you scrolling endlessly and laughing and then like thinking, oh, I'm going to put it down. And then like 7 hours later, you're still scrolling endlessly. Be conscious of the time that you actually spent in a day. I mean, we all have the same amount of time, but The Rock and Marky Mark, they do like incredible things in their 24 hours, right? Like Marky Mark wakes up at like 3 o'clock to work out like twice. Also, cancel your Netflix, cancel your cable. If this is something, and it seems like it is, if you're tuning in and you have been with us for the last 3 hours, if this is something that you truly are passionate about, you truly want this, you really need to put the discipline in yourself to achieve it.
Can they keep Prime, Victoria?
I don't know. Let me get back to you.
But Netflix has Abstract. That's like my favorite series. Which
All right.
I don't know if anyone's seen Abstract.
Again, how bad do you want it?
There's a episode all about product designers. Wink, wink. Go check it out.
Okay, here's what you guys do. Cancel Netflix tonight. Delete the social media apps, all of them. I mean, all of them. And as a treat, once you get the job, follow Robbie's lead and watch that TV series about product design, right? Like that will be your victory TV show. You'll watch, you'll order pizza. It'll be great.
So strict. You're so strict, Victoria. All right. So thank you so much to our wonderful speakers. Really appreciate your time. This was really awesome. Hope you guys in the audience enjoyed the events and guys get some great tips on transitioning into the field. I know I loved interacting with our awesome guests. This was really insightful, right? So as promised, right, people often ask about the program, right? So as promised, let me just quickly tell you about that and basically the program that we're running, since it's maybe a great opportunity for some of you to not just build amazing real client portfolio, but also get all the crucial career prep necessary to land a job. So first of all, right, who the program is best for, right? So that you know if you want to listen to this or not. The program is the best fit for people who know UX basics or come from a design, research, creative, tech, or related backgrounds and look to transition into UX in one of the most effective and affordable ways and without quitting their current jobs, right? So we're also pretty selective and look for motivated and committed team players. So BeginX is basically a part-time UX career accelerator program with real mission-driven client projects designed to help people transition into UX without quitting their jobs. We ran many cohorts and helped over 140 people transition into UX. Alumni of the program have been hired by companies like SiriusXM, Coach, ABC News, Meta, JP Morgan, Google, even many others, including the folks you guys were learning from tonight. Recently, we also have been ranked by SwitchUp as one of the top UX programs. The advisors and mentors are also UX practitioners from companies like Google, IDEO, American Express, The Economist, and many others. What you gain after completing the program is you build not just the hard skills, but also critical softer skills that we just discussed, real experience with a robust portfolio, expand your professional network, and also get ready to land an actual UX job. And in fact, because our grads have done so well, we now offer a money-back guarantee, right? So basically, you either land a UX job or you get your tuition back plus an extra $300, right? Even in the current condition with all these layoffs. So if it sounds like you may be a good candidate, right? Well, you can learn more at beginx.com. You'll see the link in the chat. And the next start date is May 23rd. And our cohorts are quite small and fill up quickly. So the next one is almost full, for example. Anyone who attended this event, to thank you for that, will be able to get a $400 tuition credit if accepted, right? So to claim that credit, what you need to do is by this Friday, so by tomorrow, go to the website and request a free, no commitment career transition consultation, or you can just apply or request program information. And by the way, these consultations, right, that I'm talking about, they're designed to be not just some like quick program pitch, but actually provide you an opportunity for you to learn about UX career transition best practices and pitfalls to avoid, get guidance and personalized advice, and ask questions about your own UX career switch and see if the program can help you and basically if you may be a good fit for it. All right. So that's about the program. We frequently run different types of virtual events. So we'll keep you guys updated about upcoming events and share resources via our newsletter that is usually sent every few weeks or so. We're looking to make it a little bit more frequent, so it's not just like once a month, but maybe every couple of weeks, so you guys are up to date on all these different events. So thank you so much again for joining us tonight, and thank you once again to our wonderful guest speakers. Really great insights. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time and joining us. It was a huge pleasure to have you here. Right. Cheers, everyone. Have a great night.